Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you guys? O level inshallah. O levels inshallah. Most likely on Sunday. Sunday night. Yeah. Either Saturday night or Sunday night. I was waiting for so long. Chale khair. Here we are. Tomorrow, sir, IGCSE. Let's see if I can do it tomorrow. Either tomorrow night or Sunday night. In fact, no, not tomorrow night. Sunday night. Sir, एड मैथ्स के लिए रेगुलर हो जाए प्लीज़ सर जैन डेली मैथ्स करा रहे हैं काइंडली एड मैथ्स का पेपर तो वैसे ही एंड में है, क्या टेंशन है आपको. एड मैथ्स की इंशाल्लाह सारे चैप्टर स्ट्रीम हो जाएंगे, डोंट वरी अबाउट इट. एड मैथ्स का पेपर वैसे ही मैथ्स के बाद है. ओके, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट. Now today in the last function stream, as you guys can see, this is part 2. In the last stream of functions, we covered domain and range. So I did a handful of questions of domain and range. आज हम इंशाल्लाह करेंगे composite function. Okay, so we're gonna do a bit of concept and we're gonna do a bit of past paper questions as well. ठीक है? So let's start. So composite function, if there are any IGCSE students, you guys would know what composite function is. This is something that has been added in O-levels only recently. So any student who's coming from O-levels background wouldn't know what a composite function is, but it's still, it's still fairly simple to get a hang of. So a composite function is basically a function that is made up of two or more functions. That's what a composite function is. A function that is made up of two or more functions, that is basically a composite function. Okay, so let's do a few examples before we dive into past paper questions. So what you do is you take two functions, you merge them into one by plugging in one function into the other. Okay, so for example, let's say you have f of x, which is equal to 2x plus 1, and x belongs to the set of all real values. And then let's say you have another function which is g of x, and that's x squared minus 1, such that x belongs to the set of all real values. Okay, so there is no restriction in the domain. You can plug in all values of x. And let's say the first part, the question says that find out fg, which basically means that you have to find out f of g, which basically means that you plug in function g in function f. You plug in function g in function f. अच्छा, ऐसा क्यों है? ऐसा इसलिए अभी देख लेते हैं. So let's recall the basic rules of function. So if let's say you have f of x, which is equal to 3 power x minus 1. Okay, so just a random function. And let's say if you're asked to find out f of 2, so you're simply going to plug in 2 in place of x. Okay, everything else remains as it is. If let's say you're asked to find out f of 5, you're going to plug in 5 in place of x, everything else as it is. If let's say you're asked to find out f of 100, so you're going to plug in 100 in place of x, everything else remains as it is. Fg basically means that now you're going to plug in g of x in place of x and everything else remains as it is. Okay, so that is basically the idea behind a composite function. So let's find out f of g. O-levels inshallah, O-levels होगी inshallah Saturday night या Sunday night. ठीक है? अच्छा, please stop spamming. No, but I don't know any, sir, Irfan. Okay. I face problems in... So for that, we'll do a separate stream. You know, the concept where you have to find out domain of composite function, for that, we'll do a separate stream. Okay? All right. Not at 12. If not at 12, then when? I don't do it at 12. I do it at 11. A lot of content is already available for O levels. अच्छा ठीक है, चलें, बहुत अच्छी बात है ये. All right, any other important questions? There is question of asymptotes no longer in IGCSE. It is in IGCSE. Okay, it is in IGCSE. So yeah, there's no major change in the syllabus. So as I was saying, let's say you have to find out fg, which basically means that you plug in function g and function f. So how do we do that? Let's find out. So fg of x means 2 in place of x, we have x squared minus 1 plus 1. So this is fg of x, which is equal to 2x squared minus 2. Make sure to read the question carefully and see how the question wants you to write down the answer. So fg of x equals to 2x squared minus 2 plus 1, sorry, minus 2 plus 1. So 2x squared minus 1, that's the answer. Okay, now an important note, and that is that fg is basically equal to fg of x, and this is read as fg or f of g, or you can also read it as f of g of x. Okay, or f of g of x. Okay, so this is how it's basically read. Acha, let me. So function ke kitne marks? Function is a very important topic, and you can easily expect it to be. It's one of the main chapters. So functions, differentiation, integration, these are your important chapters, and I can't tell you how many marks, but significant marks for sure. Okay. All right. Sir, can you do all smaller topics? बेटा मैंने कहा ना एड मैथ्स का मैं कवर कर लूँगा, ठीक है, आपने टेंशन नहीं लेनी, जो टॉपिक्स ऑलरेडी कवर हो गए आप उनको प्रैक्टिस करें, ठीक है, डोंट पैनिक, देयर इज़ नो नीड टू पैनिक, फोकस ऑन the topics that have been covered, don't worry about the topics that we haven't covered. Okay, so we will do that inshallah. Now if let's say the question says g of f, this basically means that we're going to plug in function f in function g. Okay, so whatever function is written after is the function that you plug in. Okay, now g of f means in place of x we'll have 2x plus 1, the whole thing square, minus 1. Now if the question says expand, only then you expand, otherwise you don't. Okay, otherwise you don't, you leave it as it is. All right, let's do another part. If let's say the question expands, then we expand and we write it as 4x squared plus 4x plus 1 minus 1, which means g of f is equals to 4x squared plus 4x. That's the answer. Now, let's do another part. Let's say the question says ff, or the question says f squared. Okay, ff, or let's say the question says f squared. Now, an important note, and that is f square does not mean that you square the function. Okay, f square does not mean that you square the function. Instead, you plug in f into f. Okay, so f square basically means is not equal to f of x, the whole thing square. Okay, f square basically means that you plug in f in f. This means that you plug in f in f, whereas this means that you square the function. Okay, this means that you square the function f. Okay, so make sure that this difference is clear to all of you. Now, what is f of f? Let's see what the function f is. It's 2x plus 1. So if I want to find out f of f, this is how it works. It means 2, bracket open, 2x plus 1 plus 1. So what do we get? We get 4x plus 2 plus 1, which is equal to 4x plus 3. That is f of f. There you go. That's the answer. Okay. Now let's do a few. By the way, you guys can download inverse. देखो inverse अगर आज time मिला तो आज कर लेंगे. नहीं तो what I would suggest is that you guys download the worksheet from the link in description, and there you will find plenty of questions related to composite functions. Okay, so that's what we're gonna. Today's main focus is going to be on composite functions. Okay. All right, so let's start with a past paper question. Let's do a fairly easy past paper question. Let's see what it says. Here it is. So these are all questions from the worksheet, which I've already shared in the description. So make sure that you guys download it. Stream will probably be an hour and a half. Okay. There is no reflection video in the functions playlist. So I will be doing transformation of functions all over again. Okay, so transformation of functions मैं इंशाल्लाह पूरा दोबारा करूँगा. So don't worry about it. I know there is no reflections video, but I'll do it all over again. So there's nothing to worry about. So this question says, show that g of 2x can be expressed in the following, where b and c are constants to be found. So notice the question is g of 2x. That means although it's a composite function, but we can break it down into two. That is that we first find out g of 2x. Okay, can we do that? Can we find out g of 2x? Yes, we can. Since g of x is equals to x minus 3 the whole thing squared, g of 2x would be 2x minus 3 the whole thing squared. Okay, so that is g of 2x. Now let's find out g of 2x, which means we take g of 2x and we plug this function into this function. Okay, so that means 2x minus 3 in place of x, and then minus 3 the whole thing squared. 2x minus 3 the whole thing squared. There you go. Okay, so I'll explain what I've done. In place of x, we now have 2x minus 3, the whole thing squared, the minus 3 as it is, and then don't forget that you are squaring the entire function. Okay, now notice how we're supposed to write it. Notice the way that we're supposed to write it is slightly different. We're supposed to write it like this. 2x minus 3 power 4 plus b into 2x minus 3, the whole thing squared plus c. Now what does this look like? If you pay close attention, you will notice that this is actually very close to a minus b, the whole thing squared. That means that this is basically 2x minus 3 squared, which is a, being squared again, minus 2 into 2x minus 3 squared into 3 plus 3 squared. Okay, so what do we have? We have 2x minus 3, the whole thing power 4, minus 2 times 3, which is 6, into 2x minus 3, the whole thing squared, plus 9. Okay, and what's this? This is g of 2x. There you go. Do I have an old stream for statistics? I'm not sure if I do. I must have uploaded videos, but I'm not sure if I have a stream or not. Okay. This is, you can do it for AdMaths, but there is a slight difference. Okay, I mean, you can do it, but not all of it is part of AdMaths. Okay, A-level functions is a little bit more complicated than AdMaths. Now, that was one example question. Let's do more example questions. Okay, so let's solve another past paper question. Let's see what it says. Here it is. Let's see what this says. So this says, let's take this on a fresh page. Functions f and g are defined by so and so. Find the range of f and the range of g. Okay, so it's a range related question. I think we solved it in the last stream, but let's do it again. Since range is a troubling concept, let's do it again. So 3 upon 2x plus 1 for x is greater than 0. Bring back the subcounter. I thought about it, but I don't know. It feels kind of weird to me, honestly. Although I will mention, I forgot to mention in the beginning that those of you who are watching, I would really appreciate if you guys like the stream, and I would also appreciate if you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Okay, so now let's continue. 3 over 2x plus 1 where x is greater than 0, and the question says find out the range of f and the range of g. अब देखो range के जो questions होते हैं ना, उसमें आपको ज़रा थोड़ा सब्र से काम लेना होगा. Okay, you need to be a little bit patient. You don't, you should, there's no formula, okay? It's not one of those questions, you know, like you have to find out the surface area where you plug in the values and you get the answer. It's not one of those questions. It's not like a differentiation integration questions, which are straightforward. It's a little bit tricky. So you have to get yourself familiar with the function. Now, x is greater than 0. That means let's find out what f of 0 is. Okay, so let's plug in a few values. This is not a quadratic function where I can find out the range very easily. This is not a linear function where we can find out the range easily. So we have to get ourselves familiar with the function. So let's plug in 0. Notice what happens if I plug in 0. So 2 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. So that means f of 0 is 3. If I plug in f of 1, then it's going to be 3 upon 3, which is equal to 1. If I plug in f of 2, then it's going to be 3 upon 5, which is equal to 0.6. So what are we doing over here? We're trying to identify a trend, okay? And the trend is that as the value in the denominator increases, so for example, if I plug in 10, 2 times 10 is 20, 20 plus 1 is 21, okay, which is basically, let's use a calculator to find out, 3 divided by 21 is 0.14. So what happens is, as the value in the denominator increases, the overall value decreases. Okay, as the value in the denominator increases, the overall value decreases. There will come a point where you will plug in a very large value because there is no limit to x. So there will come a point where you'll plug in such a large value that your denominator will be so big that 2 in 2000, that's 2000, so 2001. So the end result will be approximately 0. Not equal to 0, but it will be approximately equal to 0 when you plug in a very large value in the denominator. So we can see that the range is in between two values. And what's that? The greatest value is 3. The smallest value is 0. So what's the range? The range is f of x is greater than 0. So it will always be greater than 0 no matter what. And it will always be less than 3. Why less than 3? Because we cannot actually plug in 0. Okay, so this is how you find out the range of any rational function. We call these rational functions where you have an expression such that you have a fraction. So this is how you find out the range. Okay, so let's find the same way. Let's find out the range of g of x also. Once again, don't rush into it. You cannot do this without getting familiar with the function. Okay, so the domain is x is greater than 0. So let's start by plugging in 0. If you plug in 0, notice what happens. We have 1 upon 0, which by the way is infinity. Okay, and what happens? The overall value, what's 2 plus 1 upon 0? That's equal to infinity. So that means there is no upper limit. The upper limit can be anything. Okay, but what happens as I plug in values that are greater than 0? Meaning, let's say I plug in 1. So if I plug in 1, so 1 upon 1 is 1, 1 plus 2 is 3. Then if I plug in 2, what happens? 1 upon 2 plus 2, that's equal to 2.5. Let's plug in 10. So if I plug in 10, here's what happens. 1 upon 10 plus 2, that's equal to 2.1. If I plug in a really large value, let's say I plug in 10,000 or 100,000, then we have 1 upon 10,000 plus 2, which is approximately equal to what? Which is approximately equal to 2. Okay, which is approximately equal to 2. Why? Because 1 upon x, the denominator will become so large that the overall value, when you plug in a very large value in place of x, that the overall value will be as good as 0. So think of it this way, that there's one slice of pizza and you're dividing that between 1 billion people. So everybody gets as good as nothing. Okay, so what is the range over here? You can see that the range is that the function is always going to be greater than 2. That's the answer. Okay, so this is how you solve domain and range questions, and I hope it's clear. So that was the first question, the first part. Now let's do part 2. Okay, so no shortcuts, please, no shortcuts. Sometimes there are no shortcuts and you have to do it the longer way. The second part says, find an expression for f g of x. So f g of x means that we're going to plug in function g in function f. Okay, so how do we do that? Here's how we do it. 3 upon 2 into 1 upon x plus 2. Okay, so in place of x, we have function f. In place of x, we have function g. And don't forget the plus 1 from before. Okay, so in place of 3 over 2x plus 1, in place of x, we have 1 upon x plus 2, which is basically the function g. Now let's solve this. So we have 3 over 2 upon x plus 4 and then plus 1. Okay, so notice that the question has a very specific requirement. So we're going to make sure that we fulfill that requirement. So 2 upon x plus 5. Now let's take the LCM. So the LCM of 1 and x will be x. So this is 2. We multiply this by x. We multiply this by x, which is 5x. Don't forget that this is all happening under 3. So this is 3 divided by. So this becomes 3 divided by 2 plus 5x upon x, which means that this can be written as 3 into x over 2 plus 5x. 2 plus 5x. Now what does this become? This becomes 3x over, notice the question said ax upon bx plus c, so that means 3x over 5x plus 2, and that is the answer. Okay, so not that difficult after all. Just make sure that you don't skip any steps. Okay, let's do another past paper question. Just a minute. Taking out some questions. Let me open up the worksheet. Okay, so here is a fairly easy question, and let's solve this question together also. Sir, will there be, there will be plenty of parts. So I didn't want to cover all of functions at once because we wouldn't have been able to do justice. So we're going to divide all the concepts of functions and then cover them. Okay, and that's how the worksheets are as well. So in every worksheet, you will notice that a specific concept is targeted. Okay, so there will be, I think, around 3 or 4 parts in total, most likely 4 parts in total where we cover, and that's how we're going to cover this. Okay, so anyway, let's solve this question. This stream will probably be 2 hours. Okay, the function f is defined by 2x squared plus 3 for x is greater than 0. Find and simplify an expression for f of x. Okay, so that basically means that we plug in function f in function f. Okay, so f of x means that 2 into 2x squared plus 3. Don't forget that you still have to square it, and don't forget the plus 3 from before. Okay, now the question did say find and simplify. That means now we have to expand and simplify as well. So this will become 4x power 4 plus 2 into 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 12x squared plus 9 and then plus 3. So 8x power 4 plus 24x squared plus 9 times 2, which is 18, plus 3. So that means 8x power 4 plus 24x squared plus 18 plus 3, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 21. O levels की stream inshallah होगी Sunday को. Okay, so Sunday को most likely O levels की stream होगी. Anyway, so this is the answer. Easy, 2 marks. Part B. Part B says solve the equation f of x, which is equal to what? 34x squared plus 19. Now, what can we expect here? Let's see. First, let's equate it to 34x squared plus 19 and then see what we have to do in order to solve this equation. So 34x squared plus 19. So obviously, we have to move all the terms over to the left-hand side. So 8x power 4 remains as is. 24x squared minus 34x squared is minus 10x squared. 21 minus 19 is equals to plus 3, which is equal to 0. Now, 8 times 3 is 24. Okay. 24, we want factors of 24 that give us minus 10. So you guys are A-level students. I think with a bit of trial and error, you'll be able to figure that out. So minus 6x squared minus 4x squared plus 3, which is equal to 0. Now, what is it that we can take common? We can take 2 along with x squared common. So that would be 4x squared minus 3. And here we should take minus 1 common so that we have 4x squared minus 3 as well. And that's equal to 0. Now, 2x squared minus 1 into 4x squared minus 3, which is equal to 0. अच्छा अब इसको कैसे solve करें? Let's solve it one by one. 2x squared is equals to 1, which means x squared is equals to no, wait a minute. I think I've made a calculation error somewhere. Just a second, let me check. 21 minus 19 is 2. That's not 3. Okay, 21 minus 19 is 2. It's not 3, so we have to do that again. 21. Yep, that's 2. How silly. So anyway, 8 times 2. Yep, that's 2. That's correct. 8 times 2 is 16. So factors of 16 that give us minus 10. That's going to be minus 8 and minus 2. So minus 8x squared minus 2x squared plus 2 equals to 0. You can use your calculator here also, just to be on the safe side. So we take 8x squared, and now we have x squared minus 1. Let's take minus 2 common. So once again, we have x squared minus 1 equals to 0. That means 8x squared minus 2 into x squared minus 1 equals to 0, which means 8x squared minus 2 equals to 0, which means x squared is equals to 1 upon 4, which if you solve further, you have x is equals to plus minus 1 upon 2. अब सवाल में देख लेते हैं, maybe sometimes the question says that x is positive or x is negative. Yeah, so notice the question says that x is greater than or equal to 0. Okay? So if x is greater than or equal to 0, that means x is equal to half only. Although we will get plus minus 1 upon 2, but the condition is that we're only going to write the positive value. Then we have x squared minus 1, which is equal to 0. That means x squared is equals to 1, which technically means that x is equals to plus minus 1, but we're only going to write x equals to 1. And there you go. That's the answer to this. Okay, now let's do another question. Sir, can't focus on studies and focus. क्या करूं to lock in? See, sometimes we just have to fake it till you make it. I mean, if you're counting on motivation, then it's not a very reliable source. You will not feel motivated all the time. But you know, one thing that you can do is think about the end result. Think about how you will feel when you don't do well, and think about how you will feel when you do well. So how is it that you really want to feel towards the end? Do you want to feel like you've accomplished something, or do you want to feel like you've wasted all the time? So I'm sure everybody here wants to feel like they've accomplished something, and think of all the opportunities that, you know, getting a good grade will eventually open up for you. So you have to convince yourself. At the end of the day, you have to convince yourself. How many past papers do you think is ideal, both yearly and topical? So topical, so there is no limit. You should keep on solving till you understand the concept, and till you're 100% sure that you've gotten the hang of every single concept there is. As far as yearly is concerned, bare minimum, I would say 5 years, but your main aim is to reach a point where you can solve the entire paper within time and you can get good marks consistently. Okay? All right. Now, here's another question. Let's solve this. So f of g of x equals to 3. So आज हमने सिर्फ और सिर्फ composite functions पे focus करना है, ठीक है? So f of g of x equals to 3 means that we're going to plug in g of x in function f, and we're going to equate it to 3. All right. So if I plug in function g in place of x in function f, that would be 1 upon 2x plus 1, the whole thing square, okay? And minus 1, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 3, okay? Now, 1 upon 2x plus 1, the whole thing square is equals to 3 plus 1, which is equal to 4. And now you can expand and then solve, but a good thing to do at this point is to take the square root on both sides. So, you don't end up dealing with a quadratic equation. So if you take the square root on both sides, here's what happens. One equation will be 1 upon 2x plus 1, which is equal to 2, Okay, and you can solve this. Let's solve this, in fact. So we will have 1 is equals to 4x plus 2, which means 4x is equals to minus 1, which means x is equals to minus 1 upon 4. Okay, so there you go. That's one solution. Now, what about the other solution? Let's find out the other solution. How will we get the other solution? We'll get the other solution by solving with the negative square root. So if I solve with the negative square root, here's what we get. We get 1 upon 2x plus 1, which is equal to minus 2. Let's solve this. 1 is equals to minus 4x minus 2, which means minus 4x, or positive 4x rather. Positive 4x is equals to minus 2 minus 1, which is minus 3. That means x is equals to minus 3 upon 4. Now, do we take both solutions or do we take only one solution? Let's see. So, whenever you're solving a composite solution, remember, you're going to take a value of x, which is common for both the domains. Okay, you're going to take a value of x, which is common for both the domains. So, one is less than 0 and the other is less than minus 1 upon 2. So, which is less than 0 and also less than minus 1 upon 2? Just so you know, this is minus 0.25. This is less than 0, but this is not less than minus 1 upon 2. Okay, this, however, is less than 0 and it's also less than minus 1 upon 2. So this is the solution that we will take. Okay, O-level की stream, inshallah, I will do it on Sunday. ठीक है, Sunday को मैं करूँगा inshallah O-levels की stream. So stay tuned. All right, एक और सवाल करते हैं चलें. थोड़ा सा ज़रा मुश्किल वाला सवाल करते हैं. संडे को मैच है? कौन सा मैच है? ओह, संडे को तो चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी फाइनल है. Well, it doesn't concern us. So, अच्छा, it is plus minus 2, Shazia, but we are not going to take this solution because this does not fall in the domain. We're only going to take this solution. Okay, so here's another question, also from the worksheet. Let's solve this. So this says, let's see what this says. Yeah, today I'm only going to do a composite function. Okay, because functions mein agar hum, if you do a little bit of everything, it's not going to make total sense. So I'm just going to do composite function in today's class. Walaikum salam, Sahban. Good to see you. The functions f and g are defined for x is greater than or equal to 0. F of x equals to ax plus b raised to the power 1 upon 3, where a and b are positive constants. G of x equals to x squared. Given that f of g of 1 equals to 2 and g of f of 9 is equals to 16, calculate the values of a and b. So this is more like a simultaneous equation question and less of a function questions. Okay. So, but anyway, let's solve this. So first, let's focus on this equation, which says f of g of 1 is equals to 2. ठीक है, पहले इस पे focus करते हैं. So g of 1, what's g of 1? G of 1 is basically 1 squared, which means g of 1 is equal to 1. Okay, so we're going to hold on to this. And the question says f of g of 1 is equals to 2. Now we know that g of 1 is equal to what? G of 1 is equal to 1. So that means the question is technically saying f of 1 is equals to 2. Okay, now f of 1 means a times 1 plus b raised to the power 1 upon 3, which is equal to 8. Now a times 1 is a, so the equation is looking like this. A raised to the power 1 upon 3 is equal to 8. The question is, sorry, not equal to 8, equals to 2. I don't know where 8 came from. It's equal to 2. Okay. Now how do we get rid of the cube root? 1 upon 3 basically means cube root. So in order to get rid of the cube root, we can cube both sides. Now as soon as I cube both sides, what do we get? We get a plus b. The 3 and 3 cancel out each other, and 2 cube is equal to what? 2 cube is equal to 8. So this is not the answer, but this is one equation. This is one equation which will help us get to the final answer. Okay, it's not the final answer, but this is one equation which we can use and solve it simultaneously with some other equation and get the answer. Okay, now what's the next piece of information? The next piece of information is g of f of 9 is equals to 16. Let's try and break this down. G of f of 9 is equal to 16. So g of f of 9 equals to 16 means that first we'll have to find out f of 9. Now how can I find out f of 9? F of 9 will basically be a times 9 plus b raised to the power 1 upon 3. That means f of 9 is equals to 9a plus b, the whole thing raised to the power 1 upon 3. Now, g of f of 9 means that I can replace f of 9 with this. 9a plus b raised to the power 1 upon 3. And we can plug that in function g. So what's function g? Remember, function g is x squared. So that means 9a plus b to the power 1 upon 3 in place of x. And because there is a square on x, so this also gets squared. So this is g of f of 9 that we're looking at. And what's that equal to? According to the question, that's equal to 16. So that means 9a plus b raised to the power 2 upon 3 is equals to 16. Now, how do we get rid of the power 2 upon 3? Very simple. We raise both sides to the reciprocal of 2 upon 3. Meaning we raise the left-hand side to 3 upon 2 and we raise the right-hand side to 3 upon 2. And important in P1. No, it's not trigonometry. All the trigonometry is right up there. But it's differentiation integration. Differentiation integration, perhaps the two most important chapters there are. Okay. Now, upon subtracting the two, we have 8a, which is equal to 56, meaning a is equals to 8 times 7, which is 56. And then you can find out the value of b. Plug in a in this equation. 7 plus b is equals to 8. That means b is equals to 1. ठीक है, तो क्या आ गया हमारे पास? हमारे पास a और b दोनों की values आ गई. Okay, now let's do another question. Let's solve a question which has trigonometry in it. Here. Nope, sorry, not this question. That's the same. Have I uploaded integration videos? I'm pretty sure I have. I have done plenty of streams of integration in the past. So I'm pretty sure that you will find, you will find videos on that. Okay. So here's a question. Let's see what this says. It says, functions f and g are defined by f of x equals to 2 minus 3 cos x for x is, अच्छा ये 20 नहीं होगा, ये most likely 2 pi होगा. ठीक है, let me double check and see what the range is. Command double check कर लेता हूँ, just a second. Sometimes there are typing errors in this worksheets. By the way, you guys can find all these worksheets along with worksheets of other topics also from the website, and you can download them also. Okay, so all these worksheets are uploaded on the website mathletebysart.com. So the correct question is actually, yeah, I was right, from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, from 0 to 2 pi. So they're both from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, now, functions f and g are defined by f of x is equals to 2 minus 3 cos x for x is greater than or equal to 0, lesser than or equal to 2 pi. And g of x is equals to half x for x is greater than or equal to 0, lesser than or equal to 2 pi. Solve the equation f of g of x, which is equal to 1. Okay, f of g of x equals to 1. That means we are going to plug in function g in function f, which means we're going to plug in half of x in function f. So that means 2 minus 3 cos of half x, okay, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 1. Now let's solve this. So we have minus 3 cos of half x, which is equal to 1 minus 2. And what's that equal to? That's equal to minus 1. Now, as we solve this further, minus minus cancel. And what are we looking at? We're looking at cos of half x, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 1 upon 3. Okay. Now, what's the range? The range for both is from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so the range of x is from 0 to 2 pi, but the equation that we are solving is actually cos of half x. So that means we'll have to alter the range. So it's going to be from 0 to pi. ठीक हो गया? अच्छा, Cos is what? Cos is positive. That means it could be in the first or in the fourth quadrant. Okay, so it could be in the first or it could be in the fourth quadrant. Now, should we consider the fourth quadrant? No, of course not, because the range is only from 0 to pi. So 0 or pi upon 2, and this is pi. So here we go, and here we go. So this is alpha and this is alpha. We're obviously not going to consider the fourth quadrant. So let's make sure that your calculator is in radian mode for this one. Let's take cos inverse of 1 upon 3, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 1.2309. So half x is equal to 1.2309. And what have I done? Just so you guys know, I found out alpha by taking cos inverse of 1 upon 3. So we have alpha. Now, half x is going to be the same as alpha, which means 1.23095. Since it's not the final answer, we're not rounding it off. Let's multiply it by 2. And when you multiply it by 2, you get the value of x, which is equal to 2.46. And there you go. That's the answer. All right. So how much should we gain max from 50 in P1 for getting an A? P1 is not out of 50 marks, just so you know. P1 is out of 75 marks. Okay, so S1 and M1 are out of 50 marks, and that depends on the threshold. Okay, that depends on the threshold. There is no fixed mark that, this is what you need to get. It depends on the threshold. If the paper is easy, you need a higher score. If the paper is difficult, you need a lower score. But you should be aiming for 70. I mean, aim for as high as possible so that, if you fall short, you're still in the safe zone. Do I have a favorite band or singer? I don't listen to music very often, but when I used to listen to Vital Signs a lot. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but Vital Signs mein bahut sunta tha. Even out of 75, so I said 70 to aim kare. Okay, aim for 70 at least. Okay, so this is like the best score that you can get, because 70 out of 75 means 93%. So no matter how difficult the paper is, or no matter how low the threshold is, you will always end up with an A. So 70 का aim करें, ठीक है? अच्छा देखिए मेरी बात सुनें. A lot of students have this question कि हमें कितने marks का aim करना चाहिए, ठीक है? अब बात ये, that's an irrelevant question to begin with. Why is that an irrelevant question to begin with? Let's say I say that you should aim for 70. ठीक है, अब आपने पेपर में एड़ी चोटी का जोर लगा लिया और आपके 60 मार्क्स से ज़्यादा नहीं आ रहे. अब आप क्या करेंगे? What are you going to do? Where are you going to get the extra 10 marks from? And let's say मैं आपसे कहूँ कि आपने 70 का एम करना है और आपके 75 मार्क्स आ रहे हैं, ठीक है? अब आप क्या करेंगे? Are you going to throw away those 5 marks? Are you going to, on purpose get a question worth 5 marks wrong? Obviously not. So when you're starting a paper, any paper, what's the objective? The objective is to score as high as possible. Okay, that's the objective. So you don't really start the paper with a certain aim, and even if you do start a paper with a certain aim, with a certain score in mind, there is no guarantee whether you will be able to get that score or not. Okay, so if you're aiming for a certain score, aim for perfect score, so that if you fall short, you're still safe. तो ये काफ़ी फजूल की बात होती है कि हम कितने मार्क्स का टारगेट करें. भाई क्या गारंटी है? मतलब टारगेट अगर इतना आसान होता तो हर कोई 100 मार्क्स का 100% का टारगेट कर रहा होता. So make sure that you leave no stone unturned. Make sure that you practice topical past papers. Make sure that you are well prepared for the exam so that you can score as high as possible. ठीक है, ये simple सी strategy होनी चाहिए. Don't get lost in finding the perfect strategy. That's what I believe in. I believe in so there's something known as analysis paralysis. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but I talk about it very often in our videos. Where when we get so paralyzed, looking for strategies, looking for planning instead of actually doing the stuff. Okay, so don't waste your time planning. Just do it the old-fashioned way. Start putting in the hours. You'll start seeing the results. Simple as that. Anyway, part 2. Although part 2 is not related, part 2 says y is equals to f of x. So what are we going to do when y equals to f of x? We're going to sketch the graph y is equals to f of x. You saw me today. Saw me where? Acha, f of x क्या है? 2 minus 3x. 2 minus 3 cos x, sorry. Sir, does the name Zen ring a bell when you taught it next, sir? Okay, I've taught a few Zens in Nixer. It's a very common name. So we're going to have to be a little bit specific. Mosque? किधर? कौन सी मस्जिद में देखा आपने? Minus 3 cos x plus 2. And what's the range? The range is from 0 to 2 pi. 0 to 2 pi. Bahriya town? You probably saw someone else. Masjid-e-Aqsa. सही कह रहे हैं आप. I was just checking if you're bluffing. But yeah. देखा होगा आपने यकीनन. कब? कौन सी नमाज में देखा? सर अब तक एएस के लिए कितने ईयरली हो जाने चाहिए? कम से कम आपने 5 ईयरलीज तो करने ही करने हैं. ठीक है, कम से कम. That's the bare minimum. Okay, so the bare minimum that you should do are 5 years. And start from the recent ones. But if, let's say, even after 5 years, you're unable to reach a point where you're satisfied, then you should carry on. Then you should keep on solving past papers till you reach a point where you're satisfied. Okay, minus 3 cos of 0 plus 2. So if I plug in 0, what do we get? We get minus 1. Here's minus 1, minus 2, 1, 2. So 0 पे minus 1, that's right here. फिर हम plug in करते हैं half pi. Half pi पे हमारे पास आ रहा है 2. There we go. Then let's plug in pi. Pi पे क्या आ रहा है हमारे पास? Let's see. Pi पे we're getting 5. Okay, so that means we're running out of space. We have to extend this a little all the way to 5. 3, 4, 5. So pi pe we're getting 5. All right. And then let's plug in 3 upon 2 pi. So 3 upon 2 pi gives us 2 again. And then if you plug in 2 pi, you'll get minus 1. So notice that we're getting, normally the graph of cos is like this. Okay, but the graph that we're getting is like this. Why is that? Who can tell me why the graph that we're getting is a reflection of the graph of cos x along the x-axis? कौन बता सकता है? That's because we are sketching minus. Yes, that's correct. Because we're sketching minus 3 cos x. That's the correct reasoning. Okay, let's do another question. So now I'd like you guys to solve this question without my help. Here, solve this. I'll give you guys 5 minutes. Not 5 minutes actually. 5 minutes to both ज़्यादा हैं. But solve this and let me know when you're done. What uni did I go to? I went to IPA. Not so clear? Okay, I'll zoom in. F of x is equal to half of x minus 2. And g of x is equals to 4 plus x minus half x squared. Sir, do you know any Sir Shahir Akbar? I don't. Will you be opening your own institution in the near future? No, but we had one, and I've been through all of that. I prefer teaching online entirely. So definitely not. It's a lot of hassle, especially after how easy it is to teach online. So probably not. Unless I change my mind, which I doubt. But so far, I don't plan to. I love the flexibility that online teaching comes with. X is greater than 2. 2016. When would edXL ones would come? What do you mean? X is greater than 2? Okay, let's find out. Now I'm going to solve this, and I want you guys to pay close attention. Functions f and g are defined by so and so. G of x is 4 plus x minus half x squared. Find an expression for f of g of x, and hence deduce the range of fg. Okay, so range of fg of x basically means that we plug in g of x in function f. Okay, so that means 1 upon 2 into 4 plus x minus half x squared. Okay, and don't forget the minus 2 from before. So half into 4, that's 2, plus half x minus 1 upon 4 x square, and don't forget the minus 2 from before. So what happens is that the 2 and minus 2 cancel, and what are we looking at? We're looking at 1 upon 2x minus 1 upon 4 x square. These are Cambridge. Okay, so I don't teach edXL, so these are all Cambridge questions. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. F of g of x, this is what f of g of x is basically. X upon 2 minus 1 upon 4x squared. Now, how do I find out the range? Now, there are multiple options of finding out the range. You can find out the range by using maybe differentiation. You can find out the range by using completing square. So it's really up to you. If you've done differentiation at this point, you can use differentiation also. Okay, so if I use differentiation, and let's say this is y, so this is a quadratic curve, and it's a maximum quadratic curve. So that means there's got to be a turning point of this quadratic curve. Okay, so there's got to be a turning point of this quadratic curve. That is what we're supposed to find out. Okay, could be maximum, could be I think most likely it's going to be positive. So let's find out. So dy by dx is going to be minus 2 upon 4x plus 1 upon 2. Now we equate this to 0, so that means minus 1 upon 2x plus 1 upon 2 is equal to 0. So minus 1 upon 2x is equals to minus 1 upon 2, minus minus cancel. X is equals to what? X is equals to 1. Now notice the question is not asking you to write down the domain, the question is asking you to write down the range. So that means the x coordinate of the turning point is 1. Now how do we find out the corresponding y coordinate of the turning point? For that we have to plug this in back into the equation. So when you plug this in back into the equation, you will find out the y coordinate of the turning point. So let's do that. Y is equals to minus 1 upon 4 into 1 squared plus 1 upon 2 into 1. So I think this is going to be minus 1 upon 4 plus 1 upon 2, which is equal to 1 upon 2. So the y coordinate of the turning point is 1 upon 2. And what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to write down the range. So the range of f of g of x, as you can see, the maximum point is half and everything else is going to be lesser than half. So that means it's lesser than or equal to 1 upon 2. And there you go. That's the answer. So how to tell without finding fg? You can't do that. You can't write down the range without finding out f of g. It's not possible. Okay, it's not possible to find out f of g without finding out. Okay, I just realized that minus 1 upon 4 plus 1 upon 2 is actually 1 upon 4. It's not 1 upon 2. Sorry, it's 1 upon 4. And I should have used a calculator. My mental math is honestly not that good. But anyway, here we are. This is the answer. Now, as far as composite functions are concerned, that's all there is. I will encourage you guys to solve the remaining questions of the worksheet. I've left a few questions on purpose, so you guys can solve those as practice. ये एक fairly easy concept था. Okay, ये एक fairly easy concept था. Next stream में इंशाल्लाह हम करेंगे inverse. Okay, next stream में इंशाल्लाह we're gonna do inverse. So inverse is a tricky concept. Okay, and we're also going to do, in fact, no, sorry, in the next stream we are going to do something else. In the next stream we're going to do domain and range of composite function. Yeah, we're going to do inverse and domain and range of composite function. Okay, so next stream काफ़ी हमारी important है. Make sure that you guys don't miss that stream if you're struggling with functions. So yeah, as far as composite functions are concerned, that's good enough. Acha, so sir, in some questions they give 1 mark to find domain and range. That's because it's fairly easy. Okay, that's because it's fairly easy. If it's a straightforward function like a quadratic function and it's already in completed square form, you've done all the work, then it's very simple to find the range of it. But if you have to sort of do some trial and error, like for example the questions that we solved earlier, where is it? Yeah, so in questions like these, notice that it's a 3-mark question, so the examiner is expecting you to do a bit of trial and error. Okay, so yeah, I will stop here. I'll see you guys inshallah in the next stream. O-levels ki stream most likely Sunday ko hogi. Okay, so any O-level students, wait till Sunday. Sunday ko I'm most likely streaming O-levels. And yeah, just keep working hard, keep grinding. Don't worry about the streams. There will be streams, guaranteed inshallah. I'll cover all the important topics before the exams. So yeah,